It's a good question, Richard. Where do we go from here? The good news is that across the political spectrum, the business spectrum, from all quarters of America, there was universal condemnation of this rally. Nearly all of the country and leaders around the world, as you just mentioned, realize that there is no place for hate in our society, that neo-Nazis and white supremacists don't have a seat at the table. What's baffling is that this seems to be a question that our president is unable to answer.
Donald Trump has made his support amongst the Jewish community, he talks about it frequently, both from his relationships in New York and from down in Florida. How dangerous is this for that relationship between American Jewry and, say, well, first of all, the Republican Party, even though they may lean more Democrat overall, and secondly, to Donald Trump?
Look, I think this is a very dangerous time. The Jewish community remembers, and we remember when presidents, going back to Eisenhower and Kennedy and Reagan and Carter and Bush and Clinton and Obama, all in their own way stood up to racists and anti-Semites. What we have now is really unprecedented. We have a president who has equivocated on what is absolutely unequivocal, the need to face down evil. There are no two sides here. And look, I'm talking to you today from Tel Aviv, and in Israel, a country that has suffered from car rammings. It's an act of terror. And we just, of course, had the funeral today in America of the latest terror victim, Heather Heyer.
Right.
So I think the bottom line is this. I don't know what's in Donald Trump's head.
I just want to jump in on that.
I was going to say, Richard, I don't know what's in his head or heart.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The reason I want to jump in is because I want to know what's your organization going to do about it. I guess that's what I'm sort of saying. It is something like the Anti-Defamation League. Are you going to take up the cudgel against Donald Trump, the metaphorical cudgel, against Donald Trump, lobbying in a way that basically says, you know, he may be president for the next 3 years and change, but thereafter we're certainly going to support anybody but Trump?
Well, look, we're a nonprofit in the United States and therefore have to be apolitical. And the good news is that there's nothing political or partisan in fighting prejudice. That's why U.S. senators from the GOP like Rubio and Hatch and McCain and many others came out against this right away, immediately, forcefully. What's the ADL going to do? We are going to fight back. We're going to fight back against the fascists and neo-Nazis. What does that mean? It means we're not going to wait for the White House. We're going to be working with state and local leaders, the business community, other nonprofits and clergy. Richard, the bottom line is this. There are no two sides to this argument. It's good versus evil.
Now's the time to form alliances.
Reject evil, and we're going to be taking up the cause.
Corner your enemy off.
From police chiefs,
and cut that head off.
Mayors and governors together to make sure that we all push back against bigotry and intolerance in all forms.
Jonathan Greenblatt, thank you for joining us from Tel Aviv. We much appreciate it. Thank you. And so let's go to the scene of the crime, if you like.
The enemy of your enemy.
Back to the White House, or in this case, it's Trump Tower, which is the temporary White House. Jeff Zeleny is at Trump Tower. Jeff, oh Jeff, how bad is it there today? What's the mood from what you can gauge within the inner circles of the president?
Richard, it's certainly quieter here today, no question about that. President Trump, for one, has not spoken, and he's not scheduled to speak today, and that is a bit of relief to several advisors, quite frankly. There is a sense of disbelief among some advisors. Among other advisors, though, I can say they believe that the criticism is overblown. So a typical Team Trump response, if you will. But the reality here is, as the 7th member of the President's Manufacturing Advisory Board resigned just a short time ago, the CEO of 3M, that is yet another sign that this is not likely over. And there are other CEOs who realize it's good business to distance themselves from the White House. That is a problem for them. And never mind the agenda, Richard. The whole idea of yesterday was to turn the page, to talk about the Trump agenda, to talk about infrastructure. The president was not scheduled to take questions. He was to ride back up in the elevator. But of course, he did take questions and vent publicly, very publicly. So now the administration is trying to put their heads down and work on that agenda, but that, quite frankly, has become much more complicated. Tax reform is more complicated because of this. Other specific things are, but here for now, it's relatively quiet, I have to say, Richard.
Mouth almighty.
In a couple hours, we'll be going back to New Jersey for a little more time on the golf course at Resort.
Jeff Zanni, thank you.
Trump mouth is a weapon of mass distraction.
MH370, potential new clues in the search for the missing Malaysia plane.